Hello, and welcome back to another Tracker video. It has been a while since I last uploaded, and that is just because I couldn't be bothered to make any new videos. But today, I want to show off my altitude sensor I have made, and I will be showing it off with this helicopter rocket, which flies up to a certain altitude under helicopter power, and then switches to rocket power to send itself up into orbit. This is performed completely automatically with KAL controllers. There are two KAL controllers on this craft. There is the main KAL controller, which pilots the rocket and separates the helicopter portion, and then there is the sensor KAL controller. The sensor KAL controller is mounted on this piston at the bottom of the rocket. The piston is pushing at a force of 1.46 kilonewtons, and that ant engine is currently pushing at a force of around 1 kilonewton. As it gets higher in altitude, the ant engine's thrust goes up, and once it gets above a certain altitude, the ant engine's thrust exceeds that of the force produced by the cylinder, and that ends up pushing the cylinder in, and the KAL controller gets pushed into the flame of that spark engine on the bottom. That burns off that KAL controller, causing the main KAL controller to start playing. What the KAL controller on the sensor does is it holds the main KAL controller at 0 in the play position. So although the main KAL controller is set to play, the sensor KAL controller is holding it at 0. Once that sensor KAL controller is removed, it can't hold it there anymore, so it plays. So at the minute, it's flying up under helicopter power. You may also notice there's a second ant engine that's just there to cancel out the force produced by the other one, because it's facing in the other direction. So I've got the sensor to trigger around 6.7 kilometers. So that should come in about a minute or so. But the reason why I am developing this technology is I want to see if I can make an automatic Eve lander at some point that can land on the surface of Eve fully automatically and then take off on its own after a certain amount of time and return to orbit around Eve. This is just a development step, if you know what I mean. So here we go, the sensor is triggering, KAL controller is burnt off, and now it's dropped the helicopter stage, and now the rocket is flying on its own. I am not touching any of the controls here, the rocket is flying itself. And now there is one thing that isn't automatic, and that's when the nav ball goes from surface mode to surface mode to orbit mode. The problem with that is you may notice that I'm using SAS to hold it upright, and I'm rotating the probe core so that it makes the rocket do a gravity turn. However, once the nav ball goes into orbit mode, it turns the radial out vector to be 90 degrees off of prograde, and that causes problems. It causes the rocket to lose control, so I have to immediately switch it back to surface mode again. I developed the altitude sensor while trying to make that auto starship, which wasn't very reliable. As you may know if you watched the failures video, which is like a 40-minute long video of it crashing. There we go, there's stage separation. Of course, this isn't going to be the Eve lander, this one is just a prototype, because this has nowhere near enough delta V to do an Eve ascent. We are now in space. And in about a minute or so, I think about 2 minutes from now, the engine will shut down as it's in orbit. So, as I've got nothing to really talk about for the next 2 minutes, I will now say about future videos. Future videos will be a very random upload schedule still, because it depends on whether I feel like uploading a video or not when I upload a video. So the upload schedule will be remaining random for the time being, but I will be seeing if I can do more Minecraft videos as well as Kerbal videos, because I've got 15,000 hours in Kerbal. I'm getting a little bit bored of Kerbal recently. I will get back into it, but it's just natural to get a little burnt out of doing something after a while. But back to the mission. You can see the periapsis is very rapidly climbing now, and it's about to enter orbit. It is now in orbit from a fully automatic ascent from the launch pad, flying with a helicopter that got separated using a altitude sensor. And the advantage to using that altitude sensor is it doesn't matter where you launch on the equator, it should put you in a very similar orbit every time. I haven't tested that though, I will have to test that. It will probably depend on how much fuel is burned on the helicopter portion. So anyway, I've reverted to VAB to show the KAL controllers. So this is the main KAL controller. It controls the various decouplers and engines. And you can see that it's not paused, it's actually playing. But it's not playing because you can see it's, although it's playing, it's not moving, if you know what I mean. And that's because this KAL controller is holding it at 0 on the play position. You can see once I pause the altitude sensor, that one starts playing. So that's how the altitude sensor works. Anyway, remember, if you didn't enjoy the video, to dislike and unsubscribe, and maybe you won't watch the next video.